with YouTube, so it doesn't matter.
Starting with cereal.
Cereal talk.
It doesn't matter. YouTube matters.
Everything's made up and the points don't matter.
Our conversations may not.
They don't.
It's a YouTube channel that I follow, Conversations That Matter. I'm like, that's not us.
True. True.
Eventually we get to some conversations that matter.
You're always quieter.
Well,
Oh, no. Oh, hello.
I
I can turn you up.
I have a quiet personality.
I don't think that's accurate.
Oh.
I don't think that's right.
Turn this slightly.
I'm going to increase your level.
Probably want to have the gain, I'm going to guess, to bring more in rather than put more out.
Say something witty.
Something witty.
There you go.
That's
you are.
That's our next podcast. Something witty.
It's just 30 minutes of silence.
Welcome to the John Knox podcast. Something real.
Don't sue us, the John Knox family.
Pretty sure anybody interested is very, very dead.
Yeah, there's somebody's alive within his line.
But they don't care anymore.
They don't care. They're not watching this. Worst cereal milk is Frosted Mini Wheats.
Not the Weirback cereal.
No, I never had that. Worst cereal milk is Frosted Mini Wheats.
Really?
Because there's like little shreds left at the. It's a texture.
I kind of dig it at the end of the box when you're just pouring in piles of sugar.
Then they get soggy in like 3 seconds, and you're just eating soggy shreds of nothingness. Oh, best cereal milk: Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Pretty good.
Or Cocoa Puffs.
Also good. Yeah.
Or Frosted Flakes.
Mm-hmm. Or Trix.
No. You don't know.
Fruity Pebbles.
Ain't nobody want fruity milk.
Fruity Pebbles, Cocoa Pebbles, infinitely better flavor-wise than virtually any other fruit or cocoa.
100%. Cocoa Pebbles are.
And I'm a huge Fruit Loops fan throughout my life. Love Fruit Loops. Fruity
Pebbles.
Fruity Pebbles has a much stronger fruit.
And Cocoa Pebbles has like a darker chocolate.
In the milk, I should say. I don't know about. Yeah, probably in the cereal too, but.
I'm not a fruit cereal girl.
Full soaking. I'm pretty much all cereal at this point. Favorite cereal? My absolute favorite is Cracklin' Oat Bran.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's boring.
Since I was like 20.
Mine's Frosted Flakes.
That was.
They're great.
That was
didn't know that.
Cracklin' Oat Bran was a bonding experience for Shelly and I when we were first married. That was like, this is the cereal.
I've never had it.
Really?
Really?
You should try it.
Because I like sugary cereals.
It's delightful.
You know what else is a good cereal?
It's like a really good bran muffin that crunches.
Can't say I've ever had a really good bran muffin.
Wow. Just wow.
I get turned off by the word bran.
Open your mind.
No.
Expand your mind.
No. I've got IBS. I don't want to.
All right, then.
Oh, that should have been something to rant about.
Okay.
Anyway, hello. You ever had those?
We got YouTube and Facebook both, or just YouTube?
Yeah, just both.
We got audio yet? You got
both. No audio yet.
All right.
So at least I can salvage my dignity for that.
We probably have more viewers on Facebook.
Probably. I should start the audio before I forget. Hello.
So we probably get more Facebook and then YouTube and then
No,
audio.
I would say it's Facebook, audio, YouTube.
Is that right?
Yeah. Anyway. Quaker Oat Squares. Have you ever had those?
Yes, delightful.
Those are amazing.
Absolutely delightful.
Amazing. Very crunchy and fatigue your jaw quite quickly.
If you like those, you would love Cracklin' Oat Bran.
Is it sweet?
Yes.
Oh. Because my mom used to get all bran and it literally tasted like hay to me. Not that I've eaten a lot of hay.
Pretty much is. I've had hay. It's more flavor.
Well.
It's actually better than the old bran or than the all bran.
And people that make like at Christmas time, like the chocolate. Have you seen those? They'll take like all bran and mix it with chocolate and make like little haystacks, like candies. I'm like, that's not candy.
Yeah.
You're not, no. Because you bite it and then it's just the chocolate melts and then it's just dry all bran in your mouth. I'm like, don't try to fool me with this.
I feel like the haystacks candy stuff that I've seen in my lifetime was made with pretzels.
That'd be better.
It was delightful. I think it was butterscotch on it, maybe even.
Okay. So, I can get behind that. What is my hair doing?
If my mom's listening, she can comment.
Have you ever used
So
all
much.
brand? Say no.
Oh yeah, lots. We've used lots of all brand. And
For what?
my dad used to really love all brand.
Nobody loved all brand.
He did. He was that cardboard eating guy, and all this kind of
A lot of cardboard.
But when I was a kid and we would eat brand flakes or all brand or really anything, we're piling sugar on it. You know,
Right.
so like my mom, I think my mom truthfully would probably, if you're eating a bowl of Fruit Loops, she's going to put sugar on it. You know,
I remember-
like Frosted Flakes with sugar on it.
Right.
So,
I remember very vividly having Rice Krispies and just pouring sugar.
yeah.
And so
which is delightful.
it
at
is.
the
It
end.
is because the sugar doesn't dissolve totally. So there's like a little pool of sugar at the end of your milk that you're just, crunching on.
I used to, when I was a kid, I hated grape nuts because same thing as the all brand. Grape nuts is way more flavor. It's a much sweeter thing. Somewhere along the way, I think I was, maybe middle school, high school, when I saw how much protein and fiber there was in there, I'm like, okay, this is going to be my post-football snack thing, right? So I started having grape nuts just by the handful, dry grape nuts by the handful.
Talk about jaw fatigue.
Yeah. But the coolest thing there's nothing about this has anything to do with cool. There's no cool in this conversation. But
grape nuts, man.
But grape nuts with honey and milk. So then you get
slow down.
Then you got the milk and honey combo at the end, and it's just, and they cling to the honey, and it becomes rather.
Have you ever had grape nuts hot?
Yes. Yeah.
I like that better.
I don't know if I like it better. I didn't dislike it. It's a lot of work.
Well, this gets us into like
the whole microwave thing.
Gets us into like the cocoa wheats territory.
So often I think, man, I want to live in the 1800s. No, I like indoor plumbing, and a microwave is too much work.
It's
for me.
like George last week when our power went out. When our power went out, he's like, "Did they die?"
Yes, we played Oregon Trail a lot, and everybody
died of dysentery.
Oh, my goodness!
When you talk about like microwave cereals, it makes me think of like cocoa wheats, which I love. They can't be beat.
They can't be beat. It's a good thing.
It's a creamy hot cereal with a cocoa treat.
Malto meal. There's a lot of
cream of wheat.
A lot of this. Oh man. And it's got to have a little bit of lumpiness to it. If it doesn't have some lumps in it,
what it's got to have is a lot of butter and brown sugar.
For real. Yeah.
Anyway, little pinch of salt.
And anybody who was around, if we ever had friends over for breakfast or whatever, they would usually be shocked because my mom couldn't leave anything plain. And so whatever it is, Pop-Tarts, you're putting butter on it.
So my grandpa did that
all the time.
My grandpa put butter on his cake.
There's all kinds of things.
And he lived to the ripe old age of 98. So
there you go.
Anywho, how are you?
I am great. Throat's a little rough. I got a little bit of got one of those things.
It's
going
the weather.
So that's I've got to drink the John Knox coffee here. So
your goal for 2024 should be to grow that beard.
I think it's going to take me more than 2024.
Your goal for the rest of your life.
If I never cut my beard again, it will never get to that length.
I'm more impressed by the mustache, to be honest, because the mustache is as long as the beard.
I think he was still young enough to have
he was
more
18
testosterone than most of us.
Anywho,
I don't know how old Knox was when he died, but
let's look it up.
Cat accomplished a lot of things, man.
I've discovered that I look up at least one thing every podcast.
If you look at John Knox's face on my mug, I don't know how many of you can see John Knox on my mug. He
was Scottish.
This is a mug from Covenant Theological Seminary, and you can see how the Scots like the beards and the Highland cows. So it's a lot of hairy things going on there.
He was born in 15.
Now I have to go watch Braveheart.
He was born in 1514. He died in 1572.
All right. So
how old is that?
Not young. It's all right.
58. That is pretty young.
Well, now it's young for us.
Did they die?
The lifespan was a little bit different before modern medicine.
True.
At that point.
So, anyway, so he only had 58 years to grow that beard. That's impressive. Probably didn't start at birth either. So
it probably didn't finish when he was 58. Probably finished before that, as far as getting to that length. So
true. What are we on about?
We're talking about
you're supposed to lead this podcast.
Leadership. Well done. Mm-hmm. So we were talking about, it's kind of a spillover from our testimony Sunday the week before with the overseers, which was just
fantastic.
Such a powerful thing, and mostly not because I had anything particularly meaningful to say, but mostly just for the principle of living openly and not, we don't want to, we want to make sure that our, that our folks understand and know who the leaders are and stuff. And so,
Shelley says the sound keeps coming in and out. She can only hear Stacy when she puts the mouth directly in front of the mic. I'm sorry. I'll up my game too.
well, all right. Well, thank you for that contribution.
I'm sorry. I'll be
Better.
here the rest of the day.
Little boost in the gain for you too, huh?
Yes, I guess. Usually I'm okay.
All right. If you can hear me, that's really
That's
questionable.
Mhm.
And I apologize for everything else. But anyway, we just want to make sure that
We've only been talking about cereal so far.
we have the openness, for everybody as we go through. And so then in looking at in keeping with the idea of talking about church leadership, we took a look at Acts chapter 20, verses 17 to 38, and looking at Paul's charge to the Ephesian elders as he called them, excuse me, he's traveling to Jerusalem and didn't want to be slowed down. So he had them come to him at Miletus, and he's giving them a charge and greeting and saying goodbye. I'm never going to see you again. And of course, they're very sad by that. But as he was doing
yikes?
Was it yikes?
Sorry.
So anyway, as they're as he's giving them this charge, it gives us a pretty good, I guess I'm going to say, blueprint for the church leader focus, particularly on discipleship, but to look at the character, the job, the mission of church leaders. And he kind of laid that out for us. And one of the things that really sort of became our core reality as we're going through it is that real Christian leadership is rooted in love and openness. And so as we look at Christian leaders, whether we're talking about pastors, overseer elders, like we've been talking about in church the last couple of weeks, or leaders in general, Sunday school teachers, choir directors, whatever else, when we look at those who are in leadership positions, the nature of leadership is authority, which biblical authority is always a picture of responsibility. So it's never a matter of power the way we often think of it in worldly terms. So the president has power, congressman has power, rich people have power. We tend to think in terms of power, but biblically, when we look at authority all the way back to Genesis, there is a certain level of power that comes along with it.
Right.
But that's never the goal of biblical authority. That's worldly authority. And the sinful heart will take that and corrupt it and twist it. But the picture of biblical authority is always responsibility for those who are placed under your care. So when we talk about the headship of the husband in the family, it has nothing to do with whether he's smarter or anything else than his wife. It has to do with the fact that God has charged him with the responsibility for his wife. She may be better, and my personal marriage example is my wife's better than me at almost everything, almost all the time. I'm stronger than her.
You're saying that because she's watching.
She's not really watching. She checked the sound and then she checked us.
She's like, they're no good. I'm leaving.
I know she's working.
You people are not good.
So my take on this, and we've been joking about this "you people" thing all the time, is that if you people are offended by you people, then you people are the you people who should be offended. So the reality is this, unless you're speaking specifically in racial terms, which is virtually never the case for most people, then the question is, what's wrong with you people? And shout out to R.C. Sproul, the late Dr. R.C. Sproul.
Shout out to Jay Money, who's throwing Golden Grams into the cereal.
Golden Grams, that's a win. Yeah, good call, Jeremy. Good call. So anyway, as we're looking at this idea of headship, the concept is very much like a manager. And I remember the night I learned this as a retail manager back in the 90s, as I was sitting on the floor at 11:30 at night trying to fix a broken vacuum.
Fun.
Didn't know anything about fixing a broken vacuum. I wasn't the most qualified for it, but it was my job. I was responsible for this, which means one way or another, whether I'm doing it or somebody else is doing it, I'm the one responsible for it. We've been talking about this a lot with our building project, working on getting our house and talking about contractors and so on. And really, ultimately, that's the job of the contractor. You are responsible, period. So everything else that happens underneath you having issues with my microphone there?
She says you sound quiet and sound like you're far away.
That's probably because I was probably too far away. I got to get better at sitting up. I'm a sloucher. So
you need the Mr. Hay posture.
I do. Anyhow, so.
Because your gain's all the way up.
Well, we probably don't want that. But I'll try to do better. Anyhow, as we are talking about church leaders, and I'm going to do my best to ignore the sound issues and let
I'll
let
work on it.
producer Stacy handle that, and I'll try to just do better.
Pretend
As
I know what I'm
we're
doing.
looking at this, the nature of Christian leadership and church leaders and any Christ follower who is in a leadership position, whether in the church or otherwise, it has to be rooted in love and openness. And so that means that the things that we do are driven by a desire for your good, not by a desire to rule over you, but rather to elevate you. We were just talking about this last night as we were reading Desiring God at Bible study, and we're in a chapter on money, and Piper was pointing out that that it's not he didn't use the word mercenary in this part, but it's not a sham love. That's the phrase he used. Mm-hmm. It's not a sham love to seek rewards by using our money, for people, because what we're actually trying to do is to drag them into that reward with us. So it's not just, I'm going to do things for you, I'm going to spend the money for the poor or whatever so that I can gain reward in heaven. It's because I want you also to gain reward in heaven. I want to benefit you and bring you into this. So Christian leaders need to have that mentality, that approach. Whatever you're trying to do, whether it's in church or otherwise, the goal can't be, I'm going to get mine. Right. Remember the Titans kind of thing. I'm going to watch out for me. I'm going to get mine. And that's how it works. The Christian leader has to lead from that platform of love. That has to be what drives everything. In the same way that everything that Christ did was driven by love. He didn't come to serve, but to be served, but to serve. He didn't come to gain power in a kingdom. He already knew he's the king, right? Mm-hmm. He's the King of Kings. And so he came to serve, to seek, and to save the lost. And so Christian leaders have to have that mentality, that as a governing motive for all the rest of the details of what they do. And for that to actually function well, and for our sinful nature not to stain everything the way it tends to do, we need to live in an open fashion. In other words, we need to give people access to our lives so that we don't have secrets. One of the things that I've been trying to get across to myself and to others for a lot of years is when we get everything out on the table, when everything's exposed and there's nothing hidden, it takes ammunition out of the devil's gun. Mm-hmm. His primary thing is to be the accuser of the brethren. So as he I'm stumbling all over myself this morning. So as he is accusing
no one can hear
us,
you. It's okay.
Yeah, nice. All right. I should get farther away so nobody knows what an idiot I am. But anyway, as we're looking at this stuff, the devil is constantly working to accuse us.
Right.
But if it's already out on the table, then he doesn't have the power of guilt and all these other things in bringing those accusations against us. So now everybody knows, like, well, you did this terrible thing. You're a terrible person. Yeah, no big surprise here, right? We already know. Like Luther said, yes, what of it? I know one who has made satisfaction for me. And so this power of openness does a lot of things. And one of the things that it does is it allows the people under your care as a leader to actually know and trust you. Mm-hmm. They can trust you, not because you're perfect, but because there's no secrets. There's nothing hidden out here. And whatever foolishness, whatever sinfulness, whatever selfishness comes up, it's not a surprise because they don't expect that you're some legendary perfect being. That's only Christ.
Well, I think we touched on this last week. It also not necessarily puts you on the same level, but it makes them realize that they aren't so different from the person in a leadership role. Yeah. Like, oh, this person has the same sins that relatability kind of there's a movie. It's a terrible movie that George has been watching. It's called We Can Be Heroes.
Okay.
And it's like a sequel to Shark Boy and Lava Girl.
It's a very strong start right out of the gate, right?
It's got Pedro Pascal in it, which is weird. Random. He's like the only celebrity in it. But it's a bunch of kids who are superheroes. Anyway.
A little hard up for work lately. Huh?
I think it's like a few years old. But anyway, he's like the leader of this superhero group. And he says a good leader leads by example. And that kind of makes me think that because, if you're just high on this pedestal, talking down to people, they're not going to have the relationship with you that I think they should, that leaders should with the people I don't like to use the word beneath them, but I guess beneath them.
Yeah.
It within their watch.
Right. Yeah. Under their care. And so as we're considering all of these principles, the idea of living openly, very much like what we were talking about parenting, values are more readily caught than taught.
Mm-hmm.
And so people who are following a leader become like that leader.
Right.
Intentionally in terms of discipleship and following, but also unintentionally just by proximity. The more we spend time with somebody, the more we become like them. Two old people been married for a long time, and they just kind of become more alike than they were when they were younger. And so the nature of that means that when we live openly, when we give access to our lives, it's actually true even if we don't, but we can have that authenticity that allows us to lead others by that example, to be able to say, okay, here's what I'm doing in my life. When I'm just out here not doing this thing that I'm telling you to do,
Right.
That's pretty tough. That's a hard thing. And I think that's where you end up with hypocrisy, scandal. You end up with a lot of burnout from it, because who can maintain it, right? If I'm trying to convince people that I'm Joe Cool, dignified, always have everything all together, that's a lot of work to keep all the balls in the air, right?
While you're wearing skinny jeans.
But if we're, I'm going to stop. But if we're just being real, living life as it is, not as we wish it were, or as we want to pretend that it is, then it gives people the opportunity to be able to rightly assess, is this an example I want to follow?
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, when we choose our leaders, or we affirm our leaders that God has chosen, is probably a wiser way to say that. When we do those things, we can actually assess the person, not the image. And I think that there's the discrepancy between image and reality. There's this distortion field that creates all sorts of havoc in our lives. And so we do that with the celebrity dynamic in general. We're going to see so much in the next couple of weeks here about Taylor Swift. And, there's, regardless of how anybody feels about her as an individual, one way or another, most of us should just relax, because none of us actually know her personally, that are listening to this podcast. If you do, if you've met her and hang out with her, then correct me and comment. But otherwise,
her brother went to Notre Dame.
The reality, I did not know that. Didn't even know she had a brother. But my point is, we're going to see a lot of things about Taylor Swift.
Right.
And the NFL is having just huge numbers because Taylor Swift. She's dating Travis Kelce, and because of the celebrity magnetism, that, right or wrong, people are making, this is the crazy thing, making life decisions based on what Taylor does, right? So, and we do this all the time with celebrities. Well, she's wearing that, now sales go up for this, right?
I saw Katie Heron wearing army pants and flip-flops, so I bought army pants.
all these kinds of things. We do that with pastors as well, right? And so we put them up on this pedestal, and we think they can do no wrong. This has come up a lot recently with controversy about Alistair Begg, one of my favorite well-known preachers. And Alistair Begg has had decades of fantastically solid ministry and rightly dividing the word of truth. And then fairly recently, an interview, it's been a few months, I guess, but it's just hitting big now. An interview about his most recent book. He was talking about advice that he gave to a grandmother about how to handle her granddaughter's same-sex quote wedding, ceremony. And the advice that he gave was very controversial among a lot of conservatives. They felt like he was going soft, going liberal, and all this kind of stuff. Well, while he and I might disagree about the conclusion of that doesn't mean I have to do what he does because he's the celebrity pastor.
Right.
It doesn't mean that now I can't ever follow him again or listen to his sermons again because we disagreed about a thing. We just need to be open and real in general, and so that we can rightly assess each other. And the article I just sent you for the newsletter about being slow to judge kind of relates to that. We just need to slow down and not be so quick to judge one way or another. We've had a number of situations here in the church recently where the natural tendency for us as humans, and I think it's exacerbated in our society and our hot take society that we've got, is whatever happens, I have to have an opinion on it. And I have to express that opinion.
Mhm.
And so when there's a conflict between two people, I have to pick sides and I have to decide how this is going to be. That's not real. That's not true. And it's not godly for us to jump into that as if we know all the information that God knows. So,
And just to, quote unquote, cancel people or things right away
right,
without,
yeah. Well, and even to support when we jump in to say, oh yeah, this person's clearly right.
Right.
And this person's clearly wrong. We, generally speaking, don't have all the information
Right.
to rightly make that assessment, particularly when we start to get then fired up and have emotions come into it. This is why, James says in James 1, 19 to 21, I think it is, says that everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. That is exactly opposite of the social media culture, right?
Facts,
That is exactly the opposite of how we live our lives in our society. The moment Joe Biden says anything, boom, everybody goes crazy. The moment Donald Trump says anything, boom, everybody goes crazy. Now, these are polarizing figures, but as Christ followers, we need to slow our roll a little bit.
And we've become, I think, kind of desensitized with that with social media because we live in this world where we've become so used to instant gratification.
Right.
We want everything now.
Yes,
and we get most things now. And so when we don't get something now, it's we immediately jump on it like it's
Well, that's a good picture of one of the points that came out of the Acts 20 passage as we were looking at it. So church leaders must live openly. I think this is a key to discipleship in general. I think it's true of parents as well. We want our kids to understand. They don't need to know every detail, but they need to know who we are. Right?
Yeah, right.
They need to know that we're not without flaws, that we sin and make mistakes, and we can own that and repent of it and apologize. They need to know that. We don't need to put everything in front of them, but we do need to live openly. But the other thing is that when love is driving our discipleship, when love is driving our leadership, driving our parenting, whatever it is, then that produces in us, and I think it requires in us, the loving endurance that overcomes adversity. And we see that with Paul in Acts 20:19, as he's talking about his own adversity. He doesn't know what's going to happen next, but he says that the Holy Spirit's shown him that everywhere he goes, in every city he goes to, prison, jail, hardship, adversity, this is all coming. But it's not stopping him. Why? Because the message, the mission must be carried out. He has to go and preach the gospel. He's got to get people who are dying to be living.
Right.
So that driving love within him causes him to endure, to take that long view, not the instant gratification. Because instant gratification says, well, this is hard, I'm out, right? If I'm not seeing results right now, I'm done. Well,
and I think that's why we see so many leaders. I'm thinking even back, like major historical figures that influenced so many people, like Hitler. Hitler people liked his message because he was, exuberant and exciting and fired up and whatever. And well, the thing with that is it burns out very quickly. And then you see the downfall of it all.
Yeah.
And
this is why leadership character matters so much,
saying,
right?
Yeah.
Because the talented, charismatic, dynamic people personality.
I'm even thinking of some certain like preachers and whatever.
Absolutely. And you're going to have a ton of celebrity that comes to you, a ton of influence and power because of the power of your personality, the Tony Robbins factor. You get the big smile, you get the
cult leaders or whatever,
witty things, cult leaders. You very seldom, in fact, I can't think of any cult leaders who gain a big following who are weak in their personality, right? So they're all talented, they're all gifted. We can't judge our leaders. We can't choose our leaders by the giftedness or the talent. And I guess that's one of the things I would encourage people listening as you're choosing a church, because I recognize that a lot of the folks that listen are probably, of the 7 that listen,
they're all in France.
Maybe don't go to Real Life. Maybe you're not attached to a church, and and all of us at various points in our life, whether it's from, moving or whatever else, changes in life stages, we need to choose a church, or even if we're talking about choosing a podcast to listen to. I listen to a lot of sermon podcasts and so on.
Thanks for choosing this one.
we cannot choose churches and people to follow based solely on their dynamic personality or their giftedness.
It's easy to do.
It's natural to do. That's the way we do it. In fact, that was one of the conflicts that they ran into in Corinth as Paul was writing to that church, because Paul didn't have that dynamic personality
Right.
the same way. So they're chasing after guys like Apollos, who's this more dynamic orator and so on and so forth. Apollos was also a good guy, but they were dividing over this, right? So he was also in the faith and learned to be sound from Aquila and Priscilla. But people were basing everything on the charismatic personality, on the giftedness, on the riz, on all these
You
things.
gotta stop using that
So-
word, man. You have to stop.
I'm pretty sure I don't have
You have to.
because I'm pretty sure you know me well enough to know that I'm probably
You
going to say it
must.
more now
You
because
must.
you said that. So don't choose your church leaders based on the riz.
I'm just gonna keep thinking of Rizzo the Rat.
We need. Okay, now that makes it even better. I really like Rizzo the Rat. But we need to be looking at these character qualities,
Right.
the being driven by love, being characterized by an openness. And when we do that, then we're able to assess the content of the teaching and the preaching and the leading as well, because there are no secrets, because it's out in the open. And so when we have sound teachers who live openly, who have a love that endures through adversity, then they will demonstrate that with a devotion to discipleship. And again, in Acts 20, in verses 20 and 21, we see Paul committed to teaching the people from house to house, getting sound teaching, the teaching of the apostles, the doctrines of the apostles, into the minds of the believers, but also reaching out to unbelievers.
Mhm.
So there's a devotion to discipleship, and there's a commitment to reaching the lost that good, godly Christian leaders must have. There's that total package of discipleship in making new disciples and in giving roots to the disciples, so that we're making disciples who make disciples who make disciples. We want to continue to do exactly what Christ has called us to. And then the dynamic, the character of it, if you have leaders who set themselves apart above others, who lead from the ivory tower, that dynamic is an indication of a prideful heart that is lacking love, that is seeing the position as something greater than the mission. And so when we see real Christian leadership, it prioritizes service over self for the sake of the gospel. And we see Paul doing that same thing, and he's calling them to do the same thing. That wherever he's going, whatever he's doing, the hardships, prison, all that stuff that's coming, the mission matters more. And Paul says, the only thing I care about, my life doesn't matter to me. It's irrelevant. The only thing that matters is me carrying out this mission of testifying to the gospel of Jesus Christ. When that's the driving force behind church leaders, you're already in a much healthier place, because you're not there to climb a ladder, and that's a little less of an issue in some ways in a low church, free church setting than it is in more of the high church mainline things where you have a hierarchy. But the whole point is to be focused on the mission and your faithfulness to God. And as you do those things, then you're going to develop in your people a mutual affection and respect. You're going to earn it with your integrity, and people will reciprocate the love that you give to them.
Okay, I'm going to stop there because we're almost out of time. But thank you guys for listening, and we will catch you next week. I think we're starting a new series, so tune in for that. 2
Thessalonians.
Thanks for hanging out, you two. Thanks for the Golden Grams shout out, Jeremy.
Thanks for helping us with the sound, Shelley.